How's it going, everybody? This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room here in Greater Cincinnati. And the best days are box days. And today I have a box day video review for the deforeal series X Plus Shin Godzilla frozen form. It's an awesome little wicked little thing, and he's an interesting addition to the series, and I'm glad I decided to pick it up. And let's bring him forth right now. And here he is, everybody, the X Plus deforeal series Shin Godzilla frozen version from the very end of the film, the 2016 film Shin Godzilla. This scene, I know I'm a kaiju fan and everything, but this scene, in my opinion, is one of the craziest cliffhangers ever of any movie I've ever seen. The scene to this movie. I can think of cliffhangers in other movies, but this is the ultimate cliffhanger in the film. And they decided they're not going to carry it on. Apparently, last I heard, they're not going to partake in this story, and I think that's crazy. But that's where it's at. Last I knew. So if that's incorrect, correct me in the comments. But I think it's just crazy that Toho will not continue this series, or at least this storyline with this version of Godzilla, because this movie did very, very well in Japan. It was a big money maker for Toho, and it's just hard to believe that we're gonna leave it at such a dramatic cliffhanger at the end, where they froze Shin Godzilla in this here form. And basically, I forget how many days it was, a month or 2 weeks, something. It wasn't a long time that he would come out of his frozen state. It wasn't a permanent thing, it was only temporary, and I just can't believe that it's going to be such a big cliffhanger, because I did like the movie. That movie, in my opinion, is like King Kong 1976. Either people love it or they don't, or they hate it. It's one or the other. I personally liked it. It was an interesting take on Godzilla. A very interesting take on Godzilla, because he kept morphing and changing throughout the movie, which Godzilla typically doesn't do. Like in the films, the previous films, he doesn't change and morph like he did in this movie. And they was saying stuff like he could grow wings and fly. I mean, it was just, I remember when I watched the movie, I'm like, daggum, this is definitely a different take on Godzilla. Actually, the first time I ever watched it, a local guy, X Plus collector, Matt Parmalee, lives close to me in Cincinnati area, and I bought some figures off him when I started collecting X Plus, and he invited me over to his house one weekend to watch it, because I hadn't seen it, and that was the first time I ever watched it. But it was, and I enjoyed that. That was a good time. But definitely a different take on Godzilla, for sure. I just wish they would continue this, but it is what it is. It's still pretty cool that they did it. Who knows, maybe down the line they'll decide to continue it. Who knows? Would be nice to see it continued, though. But I do like the movie. I like they went a different direction with Godzilla, with him evolving the whole time, the whole movie, and changing each time he came, on land and stuff. He was changing, it seemed like, every time. So, and they could not stop him. They were bombing him and trying everything, and they just could not stop him. And so they figured out that they could freeze him with a coagulant, and that's how they stopped him in this form right here in the film. As far as this figure is concerned, it's pretty cool. I love it. I like the details on this line. Of course, they've got their little crazy deforeal deformations and charm and stuff, but they also hold the characteristics of the Godzilla or the kaiju in the movie. As far as this figure, let's start with the crazy tail. His tail pretty much doesn't even touch flush. It comes out from his body and then goes pretty much straight up. It's got a curl in it, but it's a crazy long tail. Like Shin Godzilla has crazy long tail, so it makes sense that his tail is so long. It's nice on the tail. I don't even call these dorsal plates. I call them a row of spikes that goes to the base of his back, basically. It's just spikes. And there's 3 rows, 2 little small outer rows in the inner row, and they're really nicely done. Three rows all the way down to the base of his back from the back of his tail. Of course, the bottom of his tail, or the bottom side of his tail, has all the ridging that run on it. I call it bridges. Goes from his body all the way to the end of his tail. Then you have the end of his tail. The end of his tail is one of the craziest things in the movie. It's the last thing you see in the movie. Has got these little like humanoid type creatures breaking off of it when they froze him, and they are on this tail. First off, the face is there. If you look, you see the face that's in the tail on every Shin Godzilla figure I have from X Plus. The face is there. The mouth is clearly open position. Well, the lips are spread apart. The mouth isn't really open that much. It is. It's almost weird, like it has 2 mouths. It's really strange. But then, if you look at it from above, you got 4 little split off humanoid type mutations that are breaking off, and their detail is crazy too, because their heads are deformed, just like the actual figure is deformed. It's pretty cool. They're deformed as well, and they're really got good details. Even one here, his arm he's reaching out. It's just crazy. And then the one over here on this side, on his right hand side, it has the spike on his back. This one has spikes on its back as well. They all 4 have some kind of spike dorsal plates on their backs, which is what was in the movie. It's pretty cool. But the end of the tail is really crazy on this figure. It's just really, really crazy. But it's really cool how they did all 4 of the little humanoid things that are breaking off of the tail. They're all deformed as well as the big figure is. As far as his dorsal plates, they're all nicely done. They're Shin Godzilla style, just like the other X Plus line figures, the 25 and the 30. Same kind of shaping and really pointy dorsal plates. Like most of the other Godzillas, not all of them, but Heisei and Showa, their dorsal plates are kind of more rounded at the ends, not exactly pointy. But this Shin Godzilla has pointier dorsal plates like some of the Millennium Godzillas, so that's pretty cool. And then as far as his feet, of course, his nails that's the thing about Shin Godzilla. His toenails do not touch the ground. They are elevated because of his horribly mutated feet, I'm guessing. His toenails are the same on this figure. His hands are, of course, palms up, which is classic Shin Godzilla. Every Shin Godzilla I have, his hands are like that. The 25 centimeter, his right hand is kind of half like this, not all the way turned up, but the left hand is turned up. But really nicely done. Toenails, hands. The coloring on it is a lot of lighter grays, some darker grays in the tail, all in the tail. But a lot of light grayish, some black tones in here as well. But it signifies to me what he looked like frozen in the movie. But really, all the scarring. Shin Godzilla has horrific scarring, and like he's been scarred and burned and just been through hell. And that's what when you look at Shin Godzilla, that's what you think of. Like he looks like he's been charred to death, burned up. The nuclear radiation just almost ate him alive. This is what this thing portrays, and that's what it has. And it really looks cool. All the definition and detail and the scarring all over his body. His head, of course, he's got the two eyes that are just frozen. I would say they're frozen. They're almost pretty much the same color as his body. Maybe a bit more silver in his eyes than gray. Of course, his mouth is partly open. Of course, that's how it was in the film. His mouth was partly open when he froze. But nice details in his face, textures on the skin. His teeth are very, very nicely done. Very impressive. Inside of his mouth, nice details. The textures in the inner mouth is all really very, very cool looking. But his teeth are very impressive too. Individually sculpted, all the teeth, jagged, pointing all crazy ways, just like Shin Godzilla does. No doubt in my mind that this was a nicely done figure and a nice addition to the deforeal series. But like from his mouth, to me that's the most impressive parts, is his tail and his mouth, his teeth definition, and his attention to detail in his teeth and everything. That's really impressive on this figure. Of course, on his chest, he has the pointy, bony chest plate, I guess, that sticks out. It's there, it's prominent, just Shin Godzilla signature of him. It's got all the, like I said, the scarring and everything all over his legs, all over his body. It's just hideous. He looks hideous. I mean, if you look at the other figures, he looks like he's been through hell, and that is Shin Godzilla. To me, this is the scariest looking Godzilla of all the Godzillas. Like, he looks like an absolute nightmare, Shin Godzilla. But this is a really nicely done figure, and it's a nice addition to this line. I know Shin is crazy. Like, they've got, I don't know how many Shins in this line. I've got 3, and there's at least, I think, 2 or 3 more in the line, just the deforeal line. But this makes my 8th Shin Godzilla figure in my collection. I got 3 deforeals. The gigantic standard. There's 30 centimeter face, form 2 and form 3, and then I have the 25 centimeter 4th form and the Sakai 4th form. So I have 8 Shin Godzilla X Plus figures in my collection. I think I'm shinned out for pretty much. I don't know if I would buy any more Shin Godzillas if they release any more, because I've got my fill. Now, I would like to see this in another form, and I'll talk about that at the end in my close. I'll move on to some couple of comparisons with this guy, and we'll do that. We'll go right on to that right now. All right, I've brought forth my other 2 deforeal series Shin Godzillas. This is come out in between 2 and 3, I guess, or form 3 when he's starting to morph. And of course, the Awakening form 4. This is the light up version that lights up his back and all the way up his tail to the end. This is one of the best light ups X Plus has ever done, in my opinion. But these are the 3 deforeal Shin Godzillas in my collection. There's at least 3 more. The Kamata-kun, the crawling Kamata-kun, the closed mouth 4th form, and I think there's one more, but I can't recall because I don't have them all. I got into these late. I didn't get into these at the start, so I missed some of them when they and now they're just crazy. The ones I don't have, they're crazy on eBay, and I ain't even gonna touch that. That's crazy to pay $300, $400 for a deforeal, in my opinion. I'll live with what I have, but these look really cool together. And I am glad I've got all these. Pretty cool. I got all these for really decent prices, not crazy eBay prices. All right, I'll do one more size comparison, and we'll do that right now. All right, I brought forth the 25 centimeter Godzilla 65. Reason I brought that forth is people might want to know, how tall is this Shin Godzilla's tail? As you can see, I got his tail right up to the 65 face, and he's what, maybe 3/4 of an inch shorter, really not that much shorter. So his tail is crazy tall. It's by far the tallest deforeal, I think, in the series. I'm not counting the Kong and Skullcrawler fighter. That might be this tall too, I don't know. I'm just talking about single figures. This here has to be the tallest release in the series, I would think. That's why I brought forth a 25 centimeter figure to judge the scale and the height of this frozen Shin's tail. Alright, we'll go to some closing comments on this thing, and I'll do that right away. I'm back, everybody, with my Shin Godzilla deforeal series frozen version. Just got it today, actually. I wasn't expecting it. It shipped from Japan on like Thursday, I think, so it came really fast, which I guess would have been maybe their Wednesday, I guess, maybe, I don't know. Shipped sometime on Thursday, I thought, Thursday or even Friday, according to the dates on the tracking. It got here extremely fast, though. But this is a really nicely done figure, and I am glad I ended up getting it. At first, I wasn't sure I was going to, but then I quickly looked at photos and stuff, and I decided I wanted to have it. Like I said, the tail and the mouth definition, the head definition, it's really impressive to me on this figure. I love the coloring. The coloring reminds me of when he's frozen in the movie, because he went from his reddish, his standard reddish and black coloring, to this grayish, light gray, dark gray, some black on it. That was the difference in him when he got frozen, because his standard color was like the Sakai Shin, or the Sakai Shin, or the big standard. He had red and black coloring all over, and unless he lit up like my 25 centimeter, it is the purple and black, which signifies he's getting ready to do his atomic breath. But this is a really nicely done piece in addition to the deforeal line. I would recommend it to anyone that is thinking about getting a deforeal. This one's pretty cool, to be honest. It's really, really cool. Now, the other version of this I would like to see is a gigantic series version of this particular version of Shin Godzilla, the frozen version. I would buy a gigantic of this if they made it. I'm probably gonna eventually commission a gigantic version of Shin Godzilla frozen form, because I would buy that, and I would want it just like this, because his tail goes up in the air. It wouldn't take up a lot of shelf space. I think it would be really cool to have something like this, even if it's stylized a bit. If my Mark went stylized on it a little bit to accommodate his long tail, he could have the tail on the ground a bit and then have it up in the air. But in the movie it is like this, it goes up in the air and it's frozen in the air. So, but yeah, I definitely would like to see this guy gigantic series, this form of Shin Godzilla. I would be interested in something like that, and I have talked to Mark in the past about doing one, what he would charge for something like that. So definitely we'll probably do it down the road, I'm thinking. Alright, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today and watching my videos. I will bring the camera closer for a close-up of this little fella. And once again, this is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room in Greater Cincinnati, and I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.